So there's a new movie in theaters this weekend called Dolly. And no, it's not the long-awaited Dolly Parton biography. Instead, this is a very bloody horror film. Hey everybody, I'm Sean McBride, the movie guy, and let's talk about that horror film called Dolly.
Wow. So beautiful. Oh no.
Someone's art project, maybe?
All the way out here?
That's weird. Hello?
In Dolly, we meet a young couple, Macy and Chase. They're played by Fabian Therese and Sean William Scott, and they're headed out into the woods for a nature hike where he plans on popping the question. But 5 minutes into the hike, they come upon this glade of trees where there's a bunch of old dolls that have been tied to the trunks there. It's very creepy, and of course the man, being the man, decides to go investigate, even though the woman says, "Hey, don't go off the trail. That's one of the first rules. Don't go off the trail." He goes off the trail. And no sooner does he leave than Chase comes upon this giant woman in a red dress, holding a shovel, and wearing a porcelain doll mask. And because he's an idiot, he walks right up to her, so she takes the shovel and she chops off his leg, and then she cuts off most of his jaw. See, this is why Mom always says, don't go talking to creepy strangers out in the woods, especially if they're holding a shovel. So back to Macy. Okay, the giant woman, who we're calling Dolly, abducts this woman and takes her home, where Dolly will make this woman become her Dolly. Everything from bottle feeding to diaper changes and lots of creepy cuddling. Okay, while I am not a huge fan of this story, I will say that I love the visual and the creepy vibe going on here. This looks like it was designed to be a modern reinterpretation of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which obviously is a movie that a lot of us really like here. I think it looks really good, and credit the filmmakers for getting that vibe right, for making it be so creepy and so scary. That's half the battle in a horror film. But look, as much as I like the cinematography and some really good practical makeup effects, it's all very hit and miss. Look, it was very cool watching Dolly remove body parts from her victims. Some of the stuff looked really good, and some of it looked Party City cheap. The Victorian mansion, for example, that suddenly appears in the middle of the woods, laughably fake. I did like Fabian Therese playing Macy, the final girl here. And yes, sure, she mostly has to run around and look terrified, but she also has to show that inner resolve, how she's trying to escape. I thought it was a nice mix. I think she did a very good, very physical job in this performance here. And I also like Max the Impaler, who plays Dolly. Max is a professional wrestler that I'd never heard of before, and she is terrifying here. She's very good. I looked her up online. She's only 5'10". I would have sworn that she was 6.5 feet. It's a big, brawny, physical performance here. Really good job. She is what makes this film so creepy. Now, my biggest issue here is the story, which hints at a backstory about what made Dolly go insane, but it never really explains what happened. And since the story is very simple, Dolly kidnaps Macy and Macy tries to escape, well, the film really could have used a lot more story. Look, I appreciate that the film is less than an hour and a half. I like the creepy vibe and the idea that Dolly feels like she could be a new addition to the legendary movie monster Hall of Fame, but hit and miss production values, a really shallow screenplay, make this into a pretty cool, really low budget fright flick, but also a pretty mediocre movie. I give Dolly 2 stars out of 4. I was really torn on this movie. I started off thinking, okay, this looks pretty cool. I like the opening setup where they're getting ready to go out. I thought, oh, we're getting a little bit to know these characters here. I like the vibe. The creepy dolls are always very creepy. It reminded me so much of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All that stuff is very cool. And then nothing really happens. It's kind of slow, quite frankly, and it's just so simplistic. And then we meet some secondary characters. As I didn't even talk about them. I thought they were completely wasted here. So, very hit and hit miss movie, but I can imagine if you're someone who likes going to see a monster movie at a midnight screening, you might get a kick out of this one. So, but if you go see it, I'd like to know what you think about it. Is it worth the time? I think it's kind of mediocre, but it's a nice potential for this filmmaker. So I would be interested in seeing what they do next with a bigger budget here. So, but hey, if you go see it, let me know what you think. Of course, feel free to comment on any of these videos, and of course, subscribe to the channel so you get my reviews just as soon as they drop. And check out my podcast. It's called Two Movie Guys. Every week I get together with another film critic, another movie guy, and we chat about all of the week's big new movies. Just check out Two Movie Guys wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, there is one more movie to talk about this week. That would be War Machine over on Netflix. And then as soon as we get done with that, we'll talk about the Oscars. Boy, for the longest time, I was pretty sure I knew who was going to win the Best Picture in all those Oscar races this week. I'm not so sure anymore. So we'll be talking about Academy Awards. But first, we'll get back to War Machine over on Netflix. We'll see you then.